Hey again, Honeybunches. It's a lot later now. I took Merlin for a walk with a dear friend and their young lab, and forgot to film cute moments of them kissing each other between doing typical Labrador super excited moments. I was a bit distracty and forgot to capture that. But yeah, it's Sunday evening. Planned to film a bit earlier in today, but my parents had a COVID scare they were sort of third removed from a case, and anyway, that turned out to not be a thing because everyone in between them and the case tested negative before they got their test back anyway. So Dad went back to Canberra this morning. This is riveting stuff. Things are feeling like, yes, right, back to normalish. And I am so glad I made something a bit different. The first recipes I have made from Otto Pink and Red Book Test Kitchen I got for my B-Day. And wowee, that was the best fennel salad I've ever had. I really love fennel salads, especially in summer. It's just refreshing crispness. And he has you salt the thin strips of fennel and zucchini to soften them, and I had not done that before, and I don't know why, because it really does help fennel just be like a refreshing thing and not a texturally exhausting thing to eat. But of course it shouldn't be if you slice it thin enough. I'm going to go to bed now, but tomorrow it's going to be 26 degrees Celsius and sunny, so I will document the garden, but that won't be the only thing featured in this video if that's not your thing. Very happy to have a bit more cooking spare time in my calendar this week, and hopefully the spoons to make a few new things. I've been editing all morning, got that done. I'm like this close from finishing the vegan gluten-free What I've Learnt series, which I know is not very popular. No, it's not doing much for keeping the channel alive's sake, but I would really like to have it as a series, and I kind of just know that my future is going to involve food and probably vegan gluten-free food, so I think documenting like my starting point is something I want to do. But will not lie, I'm always very distracted on Sunday and Monday from looking at all the Strictly latest whatever. Rose and Gio are through, everyone. You don't care, but I do. And after like an unfortunate stumble last week, they do this dive where she literally dives through the air and then spin around, and like, yes. I also just really appreciate, unlike a couple of the salsa or sambas, which are so ambitious, and where things went wrong, I was like, clap to you who like just set the difficulty at the perfect point, you know? I think there's real strength and like awesomeness in doing that. While I'm on a roll, anyone like happy for Zendaya and Tom Holland? Less about them, but more about just what it says. Well, number one, if you play Spider-Man, then you're gonna like Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield, lol. But no, that I feel like maybe it's exciting how we're a bit more mature about this or something these days, and can just be like happy for them rather than picking it apart and like dramatize very human relationships and like scandalize when there isn't anything to talk about. Just let people do their thing. I wanted to mention about this book, Rabbit Cake, which one of you recommended a hot second ago, but I finally got round to it, and I really enjoyed it, so thank you to the person who recommended it. It took me quite a wee while because it is about grief, and I just feel like everything I read is about grief. My eyeballs have just really slowed in their like page count ability this last third of the year, and I'm really finding it hard to actually finish books, but I got there. And I wanted to say there's a really beautiful observations on dogs in here. There's a lot about animals. Rabbit Cake and rabbits are sort of like a metaphor throughout it, and the character whose perspective it's from is like 11 and she volunteers at a zoo and she knows a billion different animal facts, and her mum, who dies at the start of the book, was like a biology professor type person. So there is like a loss of a family pet in the book. Spoiler, but you can't really see that coming. It's really sweet. She says, Elvis, the main character, she's a girl, like dogs are the best because A, they don't hold like grudges against you if you wrong them or if you incidentally cause them pain, which I think about all the time, because in throwing the ball for Merlin, he'll start running when I am flinging, and the ball will often bounce at the point where I aim to bounce the ball on the ground, like as I'm throwing it, he's there, so it often hits him, but he's not fazed at all and doesn't seem to hate me for that. I think he's got a very high pain tolerance, but I feel so bad every time. And the other thing is, throughout their whole life, they never stop being open to more love, like meeting new people and shrouding them in love and having the same, like, beautiful, innocent, happy greeting experience, which is so true and very emoji to think about. And like, yeah, we're not as good as that. We really shut ourselves off, opening ourselves up to having more love in our lives. And I think that's especially prudent or poignant after COVID, when there's been like necessary isolation. I mean, the pandemic is still going on, so this is ever applicable, but we've had to be more self-sufficient and self-sustaining, but then that's even harder when we have to like open ourselves up to more love. I was thinking on the walk this morning with Merlin, who he loves to say hi to new people, and like he really just leans into them, so it's quite a sweet experience. And like I encourage him to say hi, all types, motorized scooters, children, council workers. But yeah, it is interesting having a dog that's more of like a dog. I mean, he's a very petite Labrador. Don't know if you noticed, but he's a lean machine. Doesn't seem to put on any, which is really rare for a Labrador, like any padding on the outside of his ribs. We're like on top of it, don't worry. He's not like underfed or anything. I think he's just in his most active prime of his life, but even still, he's very petite, lean Labrador. But when he's saying hi to a little fluffy doodle of sorts, this is so lol, I guess, because we did have a doodle for a long time who aren't used to any other dogs. Maybe it's their first dog. When Merlin's saying hi to their dog, he will then like say hi to their owners, and Merlin's tail might, when he's wagging, like might hit their leg or something. And I'll often just like be very overly apologetic in these circumstances, since coming across interesting dog owners that take offense at anything. So I'm just like generally quite apologetic, even over the small things, but still positive and like not really apologetic deep down. But it's like the doodle owners, not trying to profile, but often he'll be like, oh yeah, I got in the way of them there, or hey, oh yeah, he got you with his tail there. Like if a dog's tail whacked me on the, like while it's wagging, hit my leg, like I wouldn't even register it, which I know is a different dog experience, and that comes with a lot of privilege, and there's nothing wrong with not being around a lot of dogs. But I guess since loving a lot of dogs in my life, I do sort of get sad when it's very clear that people have had like no experience with dogs, because dogs are like the only way a lot of people have interactions with like animals, and normalizing may be uncomfortable, like a dog's tail hitting your leg. Like it might sound completely ridiculous, but there is a section of like animal behavior that as a dog person you might not even think about and just be like, that's positive, but it might be like slightly uncomfortable, like contact with the tail, and therefore is read by people who don't have much experience around dogs as like a negative thing. I guess it's just like exposure and socialization of humans with animals. It's very evident and interesting to observe when out and about with Merlin, because he's not like a 7 kilogram little doodle, even like 15 kilogram doodle. He's like 30 kilograms. So I just think of how like dogs really do have a place in this world, because I guess there's like an ethical argument for not living with dogs, although like dogs are fully domesticated. There's no like just let them go situation really at this point. And why would we? But yeah, if you don't grow up around dogs or cats, but dogs are just a bit more physical, then some people can have like no squat experience with like animals. And I notice that with people, I don't know, it trickles into all aspects of like how you view sustainability and what you want to eat and the clothes you wear, and different materials. Like connection over those sorts of things start at such a domestic level, and dogs really are like a huge part of that. That's my little doggy spiel. It's really nice weather at the moment, so I think I'll do this in a voiceover type style, give you a little tour of the garden. If you're new or need a little refresher, I built this no-dig type garden in empty space in our front garden October time last year, and very quickly learnt that just because of the soil where we live, which is exceptionally sandy, also our front garden being surrounded by very mature trees, it's quite hard to grow like high nutrient stuff in the ground. So it's been a learning curve of seeing what works, aka hardy, pollinator loving things, while growing some veggies and strawberries and berries, and other flowers. but seeing what you can get away with, and it's still a learning journey. But yeah, even from like autumn this year, there's a couple of videos where I'm like doing gardening and like, oh, it's so barren and it's so painful for me to look at, like blank soil. I don't know, it's like heartburn. It's just, ooh. As you will see, it is slowly becoming a self-seeding like meadow of stuff, which is more flower heavy, and letting go and just letting the space be what it can be, what it can sustain, was initially frustrating, but it's very rewarding just having things grow. So the way I have, I guess, felt satisfied is growing more things in pots and turning other areas which have far superior soil and aren't so dominated by tree roots, letting them sustain maybe more veggies. Yeah, it's worked out really well and found like a happy balance. So I took some really lovely footage this morning in the morning light, which I will now show you. So just to zoom in on this quality soil I've been talking about and whinging about, there it is, and it's compact, very sandy, gory, not. Even the cooch doesn't really want to grow on it. And you can see the areas of the patch, they return to this sandy state because no matter how much compost and organic matter you put into it, it's just very dry, sandy soil that has, I'm sure, a lot of tree roots underneath sucking out the moisture and goodness. It's better in winter, and you can see it's quite mossy in parts. So yeah, you can see the mature trees in the background. I'm sure they're having a huge impact. But you know, certain areas of it have fared better in terms of what has grown. So it's still a work in progress to see what's happy where. But yeah, look at it. It's so much greener, relatively, than the start of this year. And yeah, you can see it's in our front garden, very visible to the street. We're on a corner, and we have a lot of friendly magpies that eat a lot of the worms that are always hiding under fallen oak leaves. So in this morning sunspot, I have some beetroot that's really happy there. Behind that I have a lot of lettuces which seem really happy there, although I think they might be going to seed a little bit quicker than ideal. I have some little fennels that are doing really well. I haven't grown fennel before, but they've grown a lot since I put them in, and I love fennel, so that would be great. This is a very wild, super tall, like boob height borage patch. Borage is an edible flower and pollinator attracting plant because pollinators love blue flowers, so it's a great one to have. I have some little cornflowers there, the bright blue things to the left of center. It's a really happy spot, and I use the flowers for cakes because they taste like cucumber. That's some silver beet seedlings. I'm not sure it's gonna thrive, but yeah, it's a tricky patch. There's a lot of cooch forging its way through on this area. This is an expanding strawberry patch. It's grown and flourished this year. It's very happy. Strawberries have quite shallow roots, so I don't know, that's sort of been working, and I'm hoping it's gonna migrate further down into that corner. And there's a lot of little baby calendula and borage seedlings popping up there too. So as you can see, a lot of the calendula plants are going to seed, which I'm doing a lot of that, just sprinkling the seed into the soil and hoping it will sort of, you know, continue on its own. This is a little sweet pea teepee. I did this last year. That was so nice. There's not much soil there, but they seem happy enough and don't need a lot. And sweet peas smell sensational, so I can't wait for them to come back this year. You can see there's some foxgloves that seem quite happy, which is quite surprising because, you know, they're quite grand flowers, but yeah, they've seemed to thrive since I put them in, so that would be amazing to pop up between like the swathes of calendula. Now this planter, it had a bully bush in it that, I don't know, died, I think because of drainage issues, and I've taken it over as a veggie patch and I'm loving it. So there's at the front, I've staggered it, there's borage, basil, calendula, yeah, cascading over the edge. Then on the middle trellis I've got purple climbing beans. Now these are gonna climb up what's behind it, which are red evening sun sunflowers. Like, it's gonna look so good, and I'm determined to not have these snap off. So they've got a really strong trellis behind it, which they'll also be supported by the bees. They're meant to get like 2.5 meters high, we'll see, but you know, they're welcome to continue up towards the chimney. And this is a real full sun spot for most of the day. It gets a lot of harsh afternoon sun, so yeah, it's gonna be so epic. These pots, you got some chamomile, the wallflowers were finished, and a chili plant at the front. And this is the tree where I sort of sit and watch everything. I sort of watch the garden rather than do much to it. more of the time. I like get to in amongst it and actually weed or put something in like once a week. But you know, you've got to watch and enjoy your garden. I think that's what it's for. I just thought I'd point out this hydrangea. Is that what it is? I think so. Doing so well. It's like purple glitteriness. Now, I'm trying my tomatoes in pots this year because they did not enjoy being in the ground last year at all. And we've redone this corner and brought it forward. You might, I don't know if you can remember, I can't even. It was a straight edged corner, and we brought it forward into a curve. Yeah, tomatoes seem to be doing okay. We've got like mortgage lifters, Roma tomato, cherry tomatoes, all starting to come through. Haven't picked any yet, but it's quite early. This is a blackberry bush I got given for my birthday last year, and it's been like a dream to have my own berry bush of some kind. I thought it was raspberry and they're like my fave, so I was very excited and a little bit disappointed when it proved to be blackberry. But blackberries off the vine are incredible, even if I'm not a huge blackberry fan, you know, from the supermarket. They're very different. So in this little patch, there is a jacaranda tree that my brother put in. They're like very purple flowering, quite iconic. And then those tall, massive things are hollyhock, which are yet to flower, but I'm so excited for them to do that. And then at the bottom, you've got borage cascading over the side. There's some nasturtium and a lavender bush in there, I think. And then this is the other bed I thought I'd quickly show you. So this is next to our garage. It gets so much full sun, and I've decided to put some of the edibles that I know just won't really kick off in the other patch. So it's a bit wild. There's self-seeded amaranth and lots of sunflowers from last year's seeds going in the back there. Then there's like zucchini and cucumber and pumpkins in the front spots, and they seem really happy there. So even though there is a tree you will see growing from a old tree stump, that tree got struck by lightning, and yeah, that's growing back from the root below. That is the tour of the garden. I hope you got something out of that and I captured it okay.